Season 3 of From is about to embark into its final few chapters and build towards what we can hope is a crescendo to remember. I'm a fan of this show and it's one that I genuinely look forward to tuning into every week. However, in the most recent weeks, I think it's become clear to see that there's a general mood of frustration and running out of patience that's brewing with the way that the story's unfolding and being told to us. The previous couple of weeks have seen the episodes pull in some of the lowest rated scores that the show has ever produced on IMDb, and I think that's something that's quite concerning, and perfectly captures the feeling of a large portion of From's viewers. With 3 episodes to go, the show does have time to turn it around, but before it gets the opportunity to, I thought it was worth addressing what I feel the show's biggest problem is right now, and if there's actually space and time for it to be solved in the 3 episodes that are remaining. So let's get into it. Here is From Season 3's biggest problem. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. One thing that's long been an issue with the show is the fact that it feels like we often get more questions arising at the end of each episode when compared to the answers that we're hoping to be given. This is something that ultimately results in a pile-up of story arcs and questions that have been left to build up on top of one another. And after watching episode 7 of season 3, I feel that's exactly what happened, and we're now at a point where there's almost too many questions to answer for the show's own good. I'm not even on about the wider, bigger question of why it is that Fromsville exists and why people end up there. That's the end game, right? To know the whole origin of the place and why people come to be there. That's what the ultimate final question and answer will be. But I'm on about all of the different subplots that we've got going on that just feels like they don't get the time and attention that they deserve. This is something that ultimately results in the pacing of the episode feeling a bit off and the story feeling a bit disjointed and choppy, because there's simply not enough time. Take the most recent episode, for example. The cliffhanger at the end of episode 6, and what it felt like a lot of the season has been about, is Tabitha and her connection to Miranda and the fact that she feels like she's experienced the town before, putting more importance on her. However, with us finding out that she used to dream of the forest when she was younger at the end of episode 6, and it being the last thing that we heard about, within episode 7 you think you'd learn more, right? Wrong. We genuinely got no new revelation in episode 7. We saw the exact thing being told to us, but instead of the nightmare being shown to us, we just had Tabitha standing there in the forest amongst the red stones with Jim and Jade. It was essentially a repeat of the end of episode 6, and it was almost a waste of time because there was no development. I'd also say something similar has been happening with Fatima. For the longest time throughout the season, we saw that she was having these side effects of what she believed was her pregnancy, when in reality, it now seems like she's turning into a creature. One thing I would say, how many times did we have to see her being sick in the bedroom? And also, how many times did we see her eating spoiled crops? All for it to essentially build towards what many of us predicted. Don't get me wrong, it was necessary to see her having reactions, but it was just very much a lot of the same thing. The only positive is in the most recent episode, with her killing Tilly and it seeming like whatever was inside of her was taking control of her mind. It was actually progression. But it's been 7 episodes, and it just feels like not a lot has happened with Fatima for 7 episodes worth of progression. Fatima and Tabitha have essentially been at the center of this season, but as well as that, we've also got Boyd and the fact that the town and creatures are trying to break him. We've got Victor trying to learn about the night where the town was slaughtered, which feels like it's going to connect to Tabitha and her importance. Elgin and the fact that the kimono woman has been trying to give him some kind of message. Julie and Randall still experiencing trauma from the end of season 2, which looks set to develop into something wider. Jim receiving a phone call from somebody claiming to be Thomas. Acosta looking like she's going to go rogue. The creatures in the forest, which we haven't actually caught a glimpse of yet, but have been hinted at being dangerous. And Jade with him trying to piece together the puzzle of the tree, the hallucinations, and why they're all there. A lot of these subplots will inevitably tie into one another. It's obvious that they're gonna. But the issue now is the fact that there's a list that's forming and there's simply not enough time to address them all in a singular episode. Meaning some get forgotten about for a while and even won't get addressed in an episode, but then when it does get picked up, something else has to get dropped for a short while in its place. It just feels like the show has kind of bitten off more than it can chew for the time being, which I think is a bit of a shame. Don't get me wrong, the storylines are interesting, but there's just too much going on. Less can sometimes be more when it comes to the quality of the story, as at the moment things are just getting a bit lost. That's why I actually think the first few episodes of Season 3 were really strong, especially Episode 1. It had everything that made the show good. It had a couple of really strong arcs being teased to us. It had the creatures front and center, which have definitely taken a backseat in the past 4 episodes. And it had the wider story of Boyd struggling to protect the townspeople at the heart of it. The togetherness and hope that was made such an important thing right at the beginning of the season has almost drifted into the background a little bit. Just simply because everybody is now kind of doing their own thing, which ultimately puts the town in a vulnerable position, but we're just not seeing that vulnerability as much on screen. My main concern is that we're now 3 seasons in, and 7 episodes of that 3rd season, and with only 3 episodes to go, I honestly don't know how we're going to get answers before the finale. I'm not necessarily saying that I want all the answers before the season concludes, but I just want something that shows me that we're actually making progress and heading in the right direction. If Fatima is turning into one of those creatures, then why is she? Will we get clarity on that? I also want to understand the importance of Tabitha and not just be teased with the odd 10-minute section in the episode. It's been going on for a while now. Plus, Boyd also feels like he's drifted into the background too. I thought a lot of this season was going to be centered around the town trying to break him, and I'm just not seeing that direct impact as much. I actually wanted the town to turn against Boyd at one point, which would have focused on that togetherness being ripped apart. If everything that's going on with Fatima is because it's going to impact Alice, which in turn will impact Boyd, that's something that's fair enough, and I'm behind it. I'm all for the long game as long as there are some slight rewards along the way, and this season has just been a bag of questions with no answers whatsoever. So where does the show go from here? Well, when I look at this, it's not looking good. From has just put out the lowest rated episode that it's ever created, and I think that's a result of a blend of the quality of story being told and the choppy nature that it's started to adopt, and also the mood that I mentioned at the start. The show has many different stories going on that now it's built up an expectation for a lot of it to tie together and for the reward to be grand, and that's because there's been no reward throughout the entirety of the season. I'm hoping in these next 3 episodes we'll find out a few of the answers to the biggest questions that we've got, such as Fatima and her transformation, Tabitha and her importance to the town, and Victor and the story that he's looking to get about the night where the town was massacred. And with that, I hope that's going to provide some of the needed answers that will tie into the wider story of why the people are there, the origin of the monsters, and the origin of Fromsville in its own form. I guess we're just going to have to see this with time though. I don't like talking negatively about a show when it's one that I do genuinely look forward to watching every week, but the most recent episodes in this season have just been making me question the quality of episodes that we've had. And I think realistically, as an audience, sometimes we do deserve a little bit better. I don't just want to be strung along for the entirety of a season and get no answers. So, here's to hopefully getting some answers in the next 3 episodes. So, there you have it, from Season 3's biggest problem. If you want to see every episode of Season 3 of From broken down, then click on the card in the top corner. There's an entire playlist there. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. Do you think the show even has an issue? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.